When I watched Bluey for the first time, I was genuinely surprised how much I enjoyed it. I thought the hype around this show was just that, hype. Because a show meant for kindergarteners can't be that good, right? Dum look at you. But I was wrong. I liked it so much that I made a whole animated story time on it and named myself Bluey's biggest fan. Yes, I'm a bigger fan than you. Sorry, dumb the rules. But what surprised me even more was how easily this show took my heart and casually broke it with its mature themes that was presented so everyone watching can understand. So grab a box of tissues, subscribe to your new favorite YouTuber while we discuss the heartbreaking lore of Bluey. We're often taught to feel our emotions wherever we are in our life, that we shouldn't run away from them because it's not healthy, but we're rarely ever taught to let go of those feelings once we felt them. The episode begins with Rusty, Mackenzie, and Jack playing Space Rangers, and they are taking a trip to Mars to look for aliens. Right as they begin their journey, they are hit with meteors and Mackenzie goes to fix the ship. But as he fixes it, a second set of meteors hit the ship and Mackenzie gets untethered and gets lost in space. What's weird about this though is that Jack, the computer, said there was no second set of meteors detected, but Mackenzie decided against it. Rusty goes out to get Mackenzie, but he's sitting behind a tree looking somber. Something is clearly up. But Rusty pulls him back on board with no questions asked. They land on the moon to properly repair everything and Rusty begins to do push-ups and karate because somebody's gotta show those meteors who's boss. Jack asks Mackenzie how he even got untethered when everything was on pretty tight. Mackenzie just brushes everything aside and they prepare to begin their journey again. But right as they begin to take off, Mackenzie goes missing. They find him under a cliff and Mackenzie starts accusing them of leaving him behind on purpose, which he knows isn't true, but he wants it to be. He then admits to unhooking the tether himself earlier and no longer wanting to go to Mars with his friends, but instead wants to pretend they left him behind, which is such a sad statement when you look at it, but I kinda get it. I feel like we've all had those days. Days where it's supposed to be fun and happy, but we don't want it to be because there's something inside of us that we haven't fully processed yet. And that's what Mackenzie is doing here. This trip to Mars was supposed to go as smoothly as possible, but he wanted to get left behind from the start. The boys convince him to hop aboard again and everyone is put into hypersleep so that they can reach Mars quicker, but Mackenzie wakes up while everyone is asleep and tells Jack, who is the computer in this game, to head to the black hole instead of Mars. The boys wake up and see Mackenzie looking at the black hole. They try to convince him to come back to the ship, but Mackenzie tells them to go back. He needs to figure out what's going on. Why does he want to be abandoned? So they both go their separate ways. Mackenzie goes through the black hole and is transported back to when he was a baby. He comes out of a slide and is looking for his mother, but doesn't see her. He feels scared and sad, thinking his mom left without him when his teacher appears and tells him she didn't leave him. The slide just mixed him up and his mother was just behind him. But the thing that stuck with me through this entire episode was what Calypso said after.
You don't need to keep coming back to this place.
You don't have to keep coming back to this place. For a lot of us, we are so used to feeling a certain emotion because of the situation in our lives. Day in and day out, that feeling is always there. So much so that when we are in a different place, a better place, we often don't know what to do with ourselves when we don't need those emotions anymore. But we have to let them go. Yes, it's anxious and scary, especially since they've been with us for so long, but if we keep clinging on to those emotions, we'll only end up hindering ourselves and the people around us. We don't have to keep coming back here. The episode ends with the boys rescuing Mackenzie from the black hole and Mackenzie looking at the black hole one last time and letting go. See, I told you Bluey tackled mature themes. This whole episode deals with trauma, which is something hopefully no kindergartner has to go through. But if anyone watching has experienced it, they tackled it in such a gentle way that anyone can relate, even if it's just a little bit. I'm honestly jealous that kids are growing up with such impactful shows. All I had was Teletubbies throwing it back and Caillou. I freaking hate this 4-year-old. Caillou is such a brat that he makes Muffin look like a saint, but I'm getting sidetracked. Comment below if you want a storytime animation about weird shows that I used to watch. The next episode I want to talk about is more heartwarming than anything else. But Carrot, you said heartbreaking. I know, but it's one of my favorite episodes and I want to talk about it, okay? When I finished watching Bluey the first time, this was the first episode I rewatched just because it was so inspiring. And if you're like me, then it's one of your favorites too. So let's talk about... The episode begins at a picnic where there's a game of cricket going on. Rusty steps up to bat and the adults think it'll be easy to get him out, but little do they know, Rusty is good at cricket, like really good. He plays all day when he can, so a simple pitch is easy for him to hit. So the adults start putting more effort onto their plays. They throw a curveball, a fastball, and a box cut tactic, which I have no idea what it means, but Rusty does, and he bests them all at their own strategies. You see, the reason why Rusty is so good is because he practices even when things get hard, and the best example of this is how he got good at the fastball. He started playing with his older brother's friends and they just whipped the ball at him. We all know that one kid who plays sports like he's in a professional sports league. And I don't know if y'all know how a cricket ball is, but it's harder and heavier than a baseball, so getting hit by one at high speed is gonna hurt a lot. At first, Rusty was scared of getting hurt, so he kept avoiding the ball, but his dad gave him some great advice. You're gonna face problems in life, and you can either run away from them or
step in front and fire pull shot.
There are only two choices: avoid the problem or try to face it. And avoiding the problem seems good at first. It means we don't have to deal with the pain right now. But all it does is make the problem last longer. Facing the problem is often the best choice we have. It doesn't mean we won't feel pain when we face it, but actively going through the storm makes us a little stronger. So when the storm comes again next time, we know we can get through it again safely. The episode ends with Rusty intentionally getting out so his sister can finally catch a ball. And me feeling pumped like I could take on the world. For whatever reason, I usually turn to this episode when I see myself procrastinating and need a reminder to stop being a scaredy cat and face my problems. Now, I very briefly mentioned the next episode in my Bluey animated story time, and when people talk about Bluey, this is one of the first episodes that pop in people's heads. And that episode is... The episode begins with Bluey on the monkey bars, and she's comparing herself to the other kids, basically saying that she's better than them. You know, as children do. I can hold my breath for 1 minute. Well, I can hold my breath for 2 minutes. Chili tells her to focus on her own race and tells the girls the story of when Bluey took her first steps. When Bluey was a baby, she was able to roll over very early for someone her age, and Chili was so proud of her for doing that until she saw that Judo was already sitting in their baby group. So Chili was determined to make Bluey sit up on her own, and she manages to do it. And in the next meeting, we see that every baby in the group was at the same level, except Judo. She was already crawling, so Chili now tries to get Bluey to crawl, but she can't, and Bluey begins to bum shuffle instead. And in the next meeting, we see that other babies are also crawling, except for Judo and Bluey. Bluey is bum shuffling, while Judo, she was beginning to stand on her own. I think it was at this point that Chili begins to worry because Bluey is starting to fall a little behind. So she tries to get Bluey to crawl again, and she does, but only backwards this time. And as more baby meetings happen, we see that all the other babies are standing up and trying to take steps while Judo is fully walking. But Bluey is still crawling backwards. Chili feels dejected, and she begins to think that she's doing everything wrong, and it's such a natural thought to have, not just in the context of the baby race, but in life. Chili ends up missing the next couple of baby meetings because she feels pretty down. She's probably thinking that she's the problem, which isn't true at all. Coco's mom Bella, her name's Bella, puts some respect to her name, notices the absence, and visits Chili one evening, and shows her a pic of her entire family, which is large. She's had 9 kids of her own, and has some advice for Chili about everything on her mind right now.
You're doing great.
Damn, it got me again. Life doesn't come with this clear instruction manual, and a lot of times there's this feeling of anxiety and insecurity that we're not where we want to be or who we want to be, and it seems like everyone else is. And that can leave us to wonder if we're doing something wrong. I'm doing everything I can, but I'm still stuck here. Is there something wrong with me? We get so caught up in the hustle and bustle that we often forget that we're doing great. It's such a short and simple saying, yet the most heartbreaking and uplifting thing you can hear. So what if people have passed you? Doing the best you can with what you know now is something to be proud of. So you are doing great. You know what's crazy is the fact that this small scene that lasted about 5 seconds has such an impact that people still talk about it till this day. I never really understood what people meant when they said Bluey heals your inner child until I saw this episode. And in the moment after I saw the scene, I was like, yeah. Now I get it. Now this next episode is agreed upon by most as being one of the saddest episodes of Bluey. It's definitely in one of my top 3. When I watched this episode the first time, I didn't even remember how it ended because I was too in my feels by that point. Most episodes have equal entertainment for the kids and adults, but the mature story is in the forefront of this episode. And I think it's held in high regard for that very reason. So try not to cry while I cover the episode. The episode begins with Chili teaching her daughters a dance when the doorbell rings, and Chili's sister, the girl's aunt, Brandy, is at the door. Chili introduces Brandy to the girls, and Brandy gives them both a gift.
Onesies!
The girls race to put them on, while the adults have a slight talk about how it's been 4 years since they last saw each other. There's clearly some tension there. But before they can talk more, Bluey comes out in her onesie and tells the adults that Bingo has started acting weird. Bingo starts acting like a cheetah, get it? Cause her onesie is a cheetah, and everyone is afraid of her. No, Bandit! It should have been me! Everyone runs outside and they hide behind a shed where Bluey says that zebras aren't her favorite animal anymore. And she'd like a new onesie. She used to love zebras, but a lot can change in 4 years. Brandy begins to feel guilty about that comment and gets ready to leave when Bingo attacks her. Chili and Bluey race to the washroom to hide, and Bluey asks why Brandy has only visited them once before, and Chili tells us a piece of lore that will break your heart. You see, there's something that Brandy wants more than anything in the world, but she can't have it.
Why can't she just have the thing she wants?
Because it's not meant to be.
here. Brandy wants children of her own, but unfortunately can't have them. Life's hard, y'all, and sometimes it can feel like it's just a series of closing doors, that we do everything right, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't meant to be. And all we can do is grieve and eventually accept that it wasn't meant for us. That doesn't mean it will make everything better. It just means that it might help us move forward in our journey a little. The episode ends with Brandy apologizing to Chili that it's been too long and them doing the dance to stop the rabbit cheetah. I think the saddest part of this episode is the fact that Brandy was so hurt that she stopped coming around. It must have been really hard on her to cut Chili out of her life since it seemed like they were really close before. You know what? I'm calling it. After watching this episode a couple times and the entirety of Bluey, I, Carrot, Bluey's biggest fan and your new favorite YouTuber, am declaring that this is the saddest episode of Bluey yet. Bluey is a show that is made for kids but watched by a lot of us because it reminds us what we often forget. It can remind us that people are fundamentally kind, that you're doing great wherever you are, and even though the world can be a tough place, we can get through it. And you know what else you can do? Like, comment, subscribe, and check out whatever video I put on the screen. And as always, look both ways before you cross the street. Peace.